Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Build Your Copywriting Business podcast. Hello, friends.
Hello, hello.
Hello. Hello. So as always, I am joined by my fabulous co-host, Kate. And today we are joined by a very special guest, the talented and fascinating Mike Lamb. How are you, Mike?
I'm great. How are you guys?
We are super, at least, well, I'm super. I assume Kate's super because she's
Always
great.
super.
Right on.
So, Mike, you are a CCA student and
I am indeed
working copywriter, and you've had some wins that were pretty exciting. So we wanted to bring you on the podcast and share them with the greater community. So can you tell us, before we even get into your wins, but can you tell us about your kind of journey to copywriting? What got you interested in it? What made you decide you wanted to move forward with it? Anything you want to share?
It was a Facebook ad. It was very Nicki. But yeah, I was completely really unaware of the whole copywriting thing. My career prior to becoming a copywriter was in corporate compliance. So I was working for about 13 and a half years as a compliance officer, specifically anti-money laundering, anti-terrorism financing compliance for a large financial services organization. So as you can imagine, about the farthest thing away from copywriting you could possibly get. And it was a great career, and I was really good at it, and for the most part enjoyed it. But in early 2020, literally weeks before the pandemic hit, there was some restructuring done. I was let go. I was laid off. They gave me a package and a pile of money and said, "Mike, please go away." And that's exactly what I did. And I thought, well, that's fine. I'm going to, that was, I guess, about February of 2020. And I said that this is not a bad thing. I'll take the opportunity I'll take the summer off. I'll get some work done around the house and things like that I've been putting off forever and ever. And when I'm ready, I'll just simply go back and I'll find another job in compliance because, hey, I've got lots of experience. I've got a solid resume. This will be fine. So I did just that. And then around in the fall, I guess 2020, I decided, well, okay, it's time to get back into the workforce. And I started applying for roles that were very similar to my old one and organizations that were similar to the one I worked for. And I thought, well, this would be fairly easy and quick. And then I found out it wasn't. And there was just a lot of people looking, not a lot of jobs to be had a lot of interviews, didn't result in any job offers. So I said, you know what? Maybe I don't need to do the same thing as I was doing before. I could do something completely different. It doesn't have to be compliance. I could do a totally different pivot to a new career. So I said, that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do something new. But what? I had no idea what I wanted to do. But I know I always liked writing. And I've always done lots and lots of writing of emails and reports and all sorts of things for previous jobs. But it wasn't until I was mindlessly surfing Facebook one night and up pops Nicki's Facebook ad, copywriting. And I said, what is this all about? And I watched the little 10-minute video or whatever it was, and I was hooked. I was fascinated. I said, this sounds like exactly what I would want to do. Signed up for the course and started working through the modules, got a website and set that up, started putting portfolio pieces together, and just like Nicki and the course instructs, started pitching clients. And I had a few early wins. I had a couple of freelance jobs. One was a referral from another CCA student that was just too busy to get around to doing one particular job. And so I jumped in and did that one. And then around the same time, I started noticing that there were a lot of copywriter jobs posted on job boards, on LinkedIn and Indeed and things like that. And I said, well, maybe I can do both. Maybe I can try freelancing and landing work that way. But maybe I can start applying for some full-time roles anyway. I don't have a lot of paid work experience, but what have I got to lose? So I started doing just that, and in fairly short order was able to start landing interviews for roles, and eventually one that I turned into my current career.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. And I think you said, it's a senior copywriting position?
It's a senior writer role, yes.
That's amazing. Did they say anything at all about your your years of experience versus the qualifications for this role? I'm just curious.
I don't really remember if the job description had, they usually have a wish list of what they're looking for. It probably said something like, we want, I don't know, 3 to 5 years of experience as a writer. I tended to never let that dissuade me because, we all know that's strictly a wish list. It's their ideal candidate. And I thought, this seems to be a profession where it's like a show me, don't tell me, right? If I can show them somehow that I can write, it really shouldn't matter how many years I have or don't have of writing experience. So I just applied for it that way. And I used a little bit of an unconventional method because, I mean, let's be honest, with most jobs nowadays, the covering letter is sort of, I don't know if anybody is actually eyeballing it. Most of the time, your application goes through an applicant tracking system. It pulls out your relevant information. Very rarely would somebody actually get to be eyeballing your resume or your covering letter, except in this industry, because I think a lot of the people that are doing the hiring, like us, are creatives and they want to know a little bit more about the person. So I created a covering letter for all the writing jobs I was applying for that was 2 pages. And the first page was a spec ad that I created specifically for that company to show them not only could I write, but I also understood their business. I understood their products and their solutions. I knew how to use their industry language and lingo in the writing. And then I put the covering letter where I talked about myself on page 2 and sent that as an attachment alongside my resume. And it did 2 things. One, it got them to see the writing I was able to do without them having to ask for it. And 2, it just helped me kind of stand out above what I'm sure was another pile of applicants. And so lucky enough, the creative director who was hiring for this particular role, I think himself came from a freelancing background and had started at the company maybe less than a year prior. And he was really looking for somebody that could write, not somebody who had a wealth of writing experience at an agency or anything like that. Because in the interview, he kind of, I think I just said, I have limited paid writing experience, but I think I could do a really good job for you. And he said, Mike, I'm not looking for somebody that has 5 years or 10 years or 25 years of writing experience. I'm looking for somebody that can write. So that was a great inroads to get into the role.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, and I think I really want to underline that point that you called it a wish list. And I want everyone to hear that and take that in, because I know a lot of people look at the qualifications or the quote unquote requirements and think, oh, they want 2 years experience. I only have 1 year experience, or only have 6 months experience. So I'm not going to apply for this. But instead thinking of it as they just said, hey, these are the ideal qualifications. You don't have to hit every single one in order to be a great person for this role. I think that's a really important lesson for everyone who's listening.
Yeah, it's another form of resistance, I think, seeing that wall of requirements or desires, if you will, and going, oh, I only have half of those, or oh, I've got most of them, but I'm missing 2 or 3, or I'm missing experience, or I'm missing the particular agency experience they're looking for. It really doesn't matter. If you can write, you can write. And if you can demonstrate to them that you can write, you're going to find yourself at the top of the pile very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I love too that you took the initiative to create a spec ad for this job. And on your part, it probably wasn't a ton of work, maybe an hour or 2, something like that. But yeah, it's so easy to really just set yourself apart in a major way. And I want to make sure that people are hearing that and understanding that as well. Did they mention the spec ad in the interview, in the interview process?
I think he might have mentioned it briefly, and I suspect it was really the only reason my resume made it to the sort of the stage where they wanted to interview me. But the gentleman that interviewed me did mention, because it wasn't immediately, within the week after I applied. I think it was something like 3 weeks after I'd sent it in. So I'd kind of forgotten about it, wasn't expecting a response. And then emailed me and said, we'd love to interview you. So during the interview, I know that the person that became my manager said, I've interviewed over 40 people for this role so far, and I can't find anybody that can really write. He said, I thought it was going to be so easy. Like I thought there would be this long line of people, qualified people, just waiting to grab this job, and it was so easy to fill. And he said, Mike, it really has been a struggle. So there may be lots and lots of writers out there, or people that are describing themselves as copywriters. There are relatively few that can really walk in and do the job, or can maybe demonstrate during their application or their interview process that they can do it. So take heart, all CCA students, past, present, and future. There is a ton of work out there, and apparently we writers are not easy to find.
Yeah, it's very true. And to your point, there, partially because there is not a lot of copywriting training out there. You can't major in it in college. A lot of people think, oh, well, copywriting, I hear that that's a good career. I like to write. I'm going to start calling myself a copywriter, and I'm going to start applying for work. I've written blog posts, and so I'm a copywriter, not understanding that there's a difference. And so they apply for work. And yeah, to that hiring manager's point, there are a lot of people who want to say that they're copywriters, but there really are not even close to enough skilled writers out there. So I appreciate you sharing that point and that insight from your hiring manager.
For sure.
I'm curious because you came from a corporate background. I assume, were you in going into work?
Yes.
My words. Yeah. So was it, I know you freelanced at the beginning, but what was your thinking, I guess, as you got into copywriting? You saw all the ways you could create a copywriting career. Were you open to kind of all the paths, or were you like, "Ooh, on staff could be fun"? Or what was the thinking like with that part of it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was open to all of them. And because Nicki did such a great job in her video kind of describing all the different ways, like it wasn't just, you're boxed into this one thing. You can freelance. You can freelance from anywhere in the world. You can, on staff at a really cool, funky creative agency doing fun stuff. You can work on staff at a more traditional company that just has a staff of writers, or maybe just one writer. So all of these paths are open. And I was definitely open to freelancing, and I thought that might be sort of the path that I took first, because I thought maybe I need to get like a whole bunch of experience under my belt as a freelancer before I started applying for on-staff roles. But what I've learned about myself is I'm the most comfortable working, for a company where the work just comes to me, and there's no shortage of interesting projects to work on. But I like to be able to just concentrate on the writing. It flows in. They have me scheduled to write a certain number of emails or outreach sequences or web pages or PPC ads, or what you name it. They just give it to me. I just write it, because literally I like writing anything. I don't have any particular facet of writing that I like more than the rest. I just like the challenge of being able to take something and create a good piece that's going to look good when it finally goes to market. So I was open to everything, but I think I found the part of it that I like the best right now, which is on staff. Possibly in the future, if I'm retired, semi-retired, I'd love to maybe just dust off my website and start pitching, and maybe just do freelancing on a part-time basis and continue my writing career that way.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So cool that it can fit your life stage wherever you're at, that can change. And yeah, I love that you're open to that.
Yeah. Well, there are, as there's a lot to be said for working on staff. I think a lot of people think, freelancing is the dream, but it's can be really fun to collaborate with people in person, again, amazingly in person, and build that relationship with them and really dig into your projects and and have that office experience, which I will be totally honest with you, I miss sometimes. I miss being able to go into an office and go over to a coworker's desk and chat with them. Yeah. So good for you too, for being open to different opportunities, but taking the opportunity that felt great for you.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, I have never seen the office that I work out of. I've been strictly remote because I started, when the pandemic was full force.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a small group of people, but there's only one other writer that lives in Toronto, where I'm based. We have other writers that are the West Coast of the US. We have graphic designers that are in other parts of Canada and in places like Georgia. Down in the US, we have one other creative collaborator that's based in the UK. So it's a very global company, and the creative and the content strategy team is very dispersed as well. So we don't really have, and I haven't had that opportunity to go in, like you said, and walk over to your colleague's desk and see how something looks like in layout. But the way that we work online does work very, very well, aside from a little bit of finessing time zones and that. It's great. And so I do have a very close relationship with the graphic designers, for example, that take the copy that I write and put it into an ad or an email or a banner or whatever. And it, as everybody knows, using Zoom and tools like that to collaborate and review and sign off on stuff is great. So I haven't really felt the need to be in the office. That may happen at some point. Particularly if we expand our team and people are sort of have a desire to go into the office at least part-time, I might find myself there and collaborating face-to-face. But yeah, right now it's just like we are now, just on screen, and that's how it goes.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. A great point. A lot of the I want the freedom to work wherever I am, or I want to be able to go wherever. That's now available, to your point, is now available as part of a lot of full-time jobs. Or, some days you work from home, some days you work in the office, some days, but you still get that benefit of collaborating with people and building relationships with them. Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
Are you collaborating with the other writers on the team at all, and how is that?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we only have a small handful of writers, and typically we're a little bit siloed in that specific writers will be assigned to write for a specific marketing campaign.
Sure.
So there's not a lot of sort of working with another writer to write for a particular ad campaign. But we do talk and share best practices and take a look at what each other have done, and yeah, so that's all great.
I love that. It can be so helpful to have another copywriter just, hey, sanity check, can you?
Yeah, I'm too close to this. I need an impartial set of eyes. Yeah. Exactly. And that's why it's great to have an editor. I have a fantastic editor who, always never makes edits to my stuff just for the sake of making edits. She always improves it, levels it up a little bit. There's whatever changes she makes, it just makes it that much better. So as a writer, I love having that.
Yeah. It's always nice. Yeah.
Anything you want to make sure people know or hear?
I think a lot of people, as I was, I'm pretty sure everybody that saw your ad had that moment of reckoning, like, yeah, it's not super expensive, but it's kind of a lot of money. Do I need to be spending this right now? Can I afford it? Will it be worth it for me? All I can say is, I think I made a post a few months back in the Facebook group, just to kind of, I guess, clarify what my personal return on investment was. I think it was 100 to 1. I think it was, I figured out for every dollar that I invested in Comprehensive Copywriting Academy, it had returned $100 in income. So that may not be typical, but I thought, well, that's pretty cool. And what a better, sort of way to promote the Academy than, I know you talk a lot about, is 6 figures possible? Absolutely it is. And here's how you get there. But if other people maybe not focused on a certain level of income, but just want to know how much return on my investment can I expect to get? Well, I'm here to say that for me personally, it was about 100 to 1 ROI.
That's fantastic.
And I love that you would call it an investment, because I think a lot of people don't think of it that way, that this is an investment in your career and future. And yeah.
I picked that up actually from another CCA student, and their name escapes me right now. But what they had learned from somebody else, again, in the Facebook group, was when they're sending out their quotes and or their invoices, don't use the word cost, use the word investment.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
this is not going to be, this is not the cost of my services. This is the price of your investment in my services. And I thought, wow, that's really, it's a small distinction, but it just, what a positive spin. And how would you feel as somebody getting that quote or that invoice, seeing the word investment rather than the word cost?
Mm-hmm.
It's just, it's night and day. So I like to use the term investment because it really is. But I think for the absolutely overwhelming majority of people that buy the CCA, they see a multiple return on their investment, and rather quickly as well.
Mm-hmm. That's
Yeah, it's not like a
fantastic.
car you drive off the lot and the value decreases. The value
Yes,
increases, quite frankly.
I
It's
think
just you
so.
earn. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We'll have to calculate your ROI once you retire and see what the ROI ended up being truly.
Yes.
A million
Not
to
as
one.
not as much as I'm sure some people that get into it earlier.
Mm.
I didn't mention this before, but back before I discovered copywriting, I thought the only people that made a decent living as a writer were novelists or journalists. These are the
Mm-hmm.
people that get paid to write. And I thought, well, that's kind of cool. I'd considered going into journalism at one point when I was looking at what to study at university. Ended up going a different path, but I thought journalism could be cool. And okay, well, Stephen King makes a lot of money because he writes books, and he does really well at that. But I'm never going to be a novelist like that. I don't see myself writing novels. Not particularly good at that type of long form writing. And I thought, well, if you're going to be a writer and you're going to make a decent living at it, those are kind of the main ways to do it. And I don't see myself doing either of those. It was really an eye opener to me because all of us see all day, every day copy all around us. We don't really recognize it as such. Even the stuff on the back of the cereal box you're reading in the morning, you don't realize that somebody was paid to come up with that concept and write it and get it on there. And then the more you start thinking about it through that lens, the more you see copy everywhere. And I'm sure Nicki's touched on that during the course multiple times. But the best way to start appreciating it is just start looking and paying attention to what's around you, and notice how quickly you discover how much of copy around us is absolutely terrible. And you think somebody still got paid to write that. So what could I, as a good writer, do if I know how to write that stuff properly? How many opportunities am I going to find? It's almost limitless. Some of the other things I was thinking about were Shopify stores. How many 100 million Shopify stores are there? Thousands more added every day. Very few, if any of them, use services of a copywriter to help shape their site. And for that reason, I think is why a lot of them just don't make it and they fail. What a market if you could start targeting people that with newly opened Shopify sites. Airbnb listings. How many every day people putting properties on the market, condos, houses, vacation properties, whatever. Again, I think very few enlist the services of a copywriter to help build out that story of what makes their place so special and why you need to book theirs above any of the others in your same city. What a great market, targeting people with relatively new Airbnb and Verbo listings, or people that maybe have listings that have had for a while but just aren't performing as well as they anticipated. Pitch them. Get out there and pitch them. The great thing about either of those is their contact information. You don't have to go searching for it.
Yeah.
You don't have to find an email. They make it easy to reach out, whether it's a Shopify store, Airbnb, Verbo, whatever. Their pathway to get in touch with them one-to-one is right there. You just got to jump through that door.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And those are just two two
Yeah.
examples, right? And as you're saying them, I'm sure everyone's listening going, oh my gosh, that's brilliant. And each one of those is thousands and thousands and thousands of potential clients. And those are just two examples. It's so impressive the way that you have started to think in terms of, okay, where are these opportunities, and really digging in, not just looking past interactions that we have every day, like, oh yeah, bought something from a Shopify store, or looking for a vacation home, but to start changing the way that you view the world in terms of not just interacting with things, but thinking, okay, how could this be better? And how could I, as a copywriter, improve this? And the more that one thinks like that, the more that our audience thinks like that, the more opportunities they're going to start to see. And to your point, it's monumental. We try to quantify in terms of like, there are literally millions of companies and organizations.
Our brains aren't made to understand that number. It's too big.
It is. It's too big, but I love those examples, because it just gives like just a look at a small part of what the whole opportunity is. So thank you for sharing those. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just the tippy top of the iceberg. Another great opportunity I see is real estate companies. I can't tell you the number of the little 5x7 glossy postcards I get as junk mail in my physical mailbox every week from local real estate agents. And they spend lots and lots of money producing these, because you can tell they're large. Some of them are trifold out brochures with 56 colors and all glossy and beautiful, and somebody's put the little sticker on it by hand to close it. They must be spending tons of dollars on these, and the messaging and the copy is horrendous. I'm not talking just about how something could have been said better. I'm talking about grammar mistakes and spelling errors and random capitalizations and all these things. And I'm sure that somebody in-house looks at them and says, yeah, this is great, send it to the printer. And they're spending like large dollars sending this out there, and probably wondering why they're not getting the return on that investment that like they had hoped. And it's because their copy, it's because their messaging, it's because their story is terrible. And they could greatly benefit from the services of copywriter, a freelance person, like any number of people in the CCA. Pitch those people. Find creative ways to pitch them. Send them a glossy 3x5 with one of their things but rewritten, reimagined, that sort of thing, and say, look what I can do for you. This is just one example of things I could do. Most of them probably have newsletters or blogs that they send out to clients regularly. They're equally poorly written. So many opportunities to reach out and say, I can help you.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I love it.
So I'm curious, with your background being, finance, business, that realm, is what you're doing now at all related? Because I think a lot of people have that fear of like, I have to know the material inside and out. And I'm just curious if there's any connection for you personally.
So the company I work for is a provider of information management systems. So they help other businesses, so strictly B2B writing, business to business, and we help other companies manage the vast amounts of structured and unstructured data they have in a more intelligent way, and help them get the value out of it, give them a competitive advantage. So there's no shortage of A-list companies out there that need that sort of help, and that's the market we reach out to. But when I was a compliance officer and a compliance manager, a part of my job was records and information management. So there was a bit of crossover there. And I think I actually put in the covering letter, I did try to highlight that. And so, I don't have copywriting background. My background is compliance, but part of that is I'm pretty deep in the weeds in records and information management. So I already understand sort of the products and solutions that help with that. I understand the industry terminology and language that, I can speak the language of your business is I think what I put in the letter. So maybe that helped a little bit. It's not
Mm-hmm.
somebody coming in and pitching them, cold. I can learn whatever it is you do. No, I kind of already understand what you do, and I can help you communicate that message better. But yeah, to your point, Kate, I think there is a reluctance, maybe another form of resistance for people that are maybe applying for on-staff roles. You say, "Oh, I've heard of this company, and they're amazing, and maybe they even know people that work there and tell them how great it is, but I don't really understand what it is they do." All I can say is try to, read everything that they have available. Most companies have no shortage of thought leadership pieces on LinkedIn or other platforms like that, from the CEO on down. So in addition to just scouring their website, really try to understand the messaging that's coming out of the people in charge there, and understand where they're coming from and what their needs are. And once you do that, I think it becomes much easier as a writer to try to show them, I understand you do this, and this is your priority. Here's how I can help you do that.
I love that. I love the connection you made too, though, from your job. I'm thinking of like a lot of nurses in the group, for example, like they use a lot of software. So if they were at a company, oh, hey, I know how to use this, the electronic records management or whatever it's called. And all of those sorts of connections that you might not think about that might help you.
Yeah, any kind of crossover that you can think of to throw in there just strengthens your case, I think, and puts your application a little bit higher in the pile.
Absolutely. Now, I know that you are not really looking for freelance work right now, but if someone's listening, they're like, we want to work with him. Do you want to share your portfolio site? Are you comfortable doing so?
Yeah, I'm fine sharing my portfolio site. I haven't probably updated it as recently as I maybe should have, but it's
What
very
happens when
simple.
you get work?
Yep. It's lambcopy.com. Lamb like the sheep, LAMBCOPY.com.
Terrific. And now, if someone's listening to this and they are starting to get excited by all of the opportunity and they're thinking, hey, maybe this is something I want to try, do you have any advice you would give to someone who is thinking about copywriting or is maybe kind of new to copywriting? Anything you offer up?
Just don't hold back. Just jump in with both feet. And Nicki, I think this is something you talk about a lot in the course, as far as, everybody asks, when am I ready to start pitching? How much knowledge do I need to have before I start executing this part of it? Don't worry so much about that. That's a hard message to hear when you're just starting out, because I know even for me, I said, I can't start pitching places. I maybe have a list of companies that I'm interested in pitching, but I can't do that yet. I don't have anything to show them. I'm not ready. I don't feel like I'm at that spot yet where I can do that. You're ready, as long as you've got your head around what it is to be a copywriter, and you've got a little bit of practice under your belt. The rest you'll learn very quickly as you go. So my advice would just be to jump in with both feet as soon as you feel the slightest bit ready. It's a decision you won't regret, and it'll just accelerate your progress that much quicker.
Absolutely.
And if you're thinking about applying for on-staff writing roles, yeah, again, look at the ones. I mean, some of them will be very clear and very direct and say, if you're applying for this, you must have 10 years of experience at an agency. Okay, maybe that's probably not the one that you're going to be looking to do. But all the rest, again, it's wish list stuff. And if you can find a way to break through the noise and get your application noticed using a creative cover letter technique, creating a spec ad, creating a spec website, anything like that. There's a student, James, and just posted a win in the group just the other day, who landed a full-time on-staff writing role. And how did he do it? How did he get noticed? It was his cover letter. And he posted it in the group. If anybody's curious to have a look at it, it was fantastic. It was just long enough to be engaging, but still succinct. Injected a bit of humor, a bit of personality. And I believe that the hiring manager had said to this individual, yeah, the only reason we brought you even in for an interview was your cover letter. That's what got him noticed. That's what helped him cut through the clutter. So in this, where that technique may not help you at all, applying for traditional non-creative role type jobs like writing, this particular industry, I think it's such a huge untapped opportunity. You've got to do something a little bit bold, a little bit different, and just a little bit more noticeable than the other slew of people that are applying for that same writing job. You use your skills you've learned at CCA to craft that message and be creative and do it in a nice, succinct, and compelling way. There's no telling, where that can take you, how far that approach can take you. The world's your oyster.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Well, Mike, thank you so much for joining us. We've loved the conversation, and I know our listeners are going to as well. So thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you both for having me.
And so with that, we will catch all of you in the next episode. Bye, everybody. Like what you heard? Hit subscribe so you never miss a video. And if you're ready to take the first step toward becoming a copywriter yourself, sign up for a free video training right here.